Oh, okay. Back again, episode number lucky 13. And with me on Analysts After Work is the incomparable Adrian Reed. Adrian, welcome to the show, buddy. How's it going?
Yeah, it's going well, Vince. Thank you for having me. It's great
Cool.
to be here.
It's been a while. Your name was one of the folks on my list of people to get to, but I also didn't want to. I wanted to sort of prove out the concept a little bit before you approach serious people, because you, you don't wanna, you don't want to just come across as a joke. We're starting.
I've spent my career coming across as a joke, Vince. I mean, it's.
I think this episode is going to be just very dry, filled with dry humor.
Okay, we can do that.
That's my feeling, because a lot of my comedy stylings comes from IT Crowd, Monty Python, that sort of dry British wit. Despite, I think it's borrowed from being Canadian. We borrow, but I think that's going to be we leverage. We just Synergy. Do it different. And we started here today. I had a cancellation at the last minute, and then another cancellation for the person I got to fill in. So I am excited to bring in our second guest, Jennifer Batten. How are you, Jen?
Oh my gosh. Everyone, I'm so excited. You guys, my office looks so bad.
It looks creative. It doesn't look bad.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
It's literally, you guys, we have owned this house now for 2 weeks, and I have stuff.
Right.
Well, so do you want to know a secret, Jen? Probably the first. So if you've ever seen me do anything on any platform, you'll have seen the brick wall behind me, right? It isn't. It's a piece of fabric hiding all the stuff that's behind it.
So, I like the other one, the office-looking one. I like that one. That's
my favorite. Big black thing right there? That's a very lovely green screen.
Okay.
Yeah. My 10-year-old bringing it in was kind of fabulous because it's quite large and quite heavy. And he's like, "Mom, what is this?" And I'm like, "It's my green screen, buddy." He's like, "You have a green screen?" Yes, I do.
I made some videos of my girls with the last time I had my green screen set up. But I want to come back.
Oh, okay.
I want to come back to green screens, but we're breaking tradition here.
He wants us to focus.
No, I do want you to focus for just a minute. What are we drinking today, Adrian? Let's start with you.
So I am drinking a beer.
Excellent.
I decided not to go with the British cliche and have a pint. So I've got a more sophisticated European style glass.
Excellent.
And I think this is this is a beer called Bavaria, which would make it sound like it's from Germany, but I think it's actually from Holland. But it's nice.
Okay, that's nice. I don't think I've had that one.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's good.
To me, the Europe. Okay, so Jen, you may disagree, and I'm going to dump on some country. If you're not going to go with like a craft Canadian beer, you've got to go European. And like good I've also had some bad European beers.
Oh,
have you ever had Mao from Spain? Mao?
No.
Oh, it's what you get when you go to McDonald's and get beer. It is terrible. It is. But then Spain also has my favorite European beer, which is Estrella Damm, which is amazing.
Yeah, that stuff's good. Yeah.
Yeah. So Jen,
I'm just sitting here shaking my head because you can get beer at McDonald's, and
which is pretty awesome.
I should explain to everyone tuning in from North America, it is like 9 p.m. my time here. So I was afternoon drinking.
I was like, is it late there, or is it? I was like trying to do the math, and it wasn't working for me, so I stopped doing math.
This was only awkward the time we had Jamie on, which I think was the first episode you were on, when it was like it was 4 in the afternoon for me, but it was 10 in the morning for her. So I was like, "What are you drinking?" Tea.
She had tea. It was.
Green tea. Green tea.
So
You do what you gotta do.
so I've got the pinkest of drinks. This
Ooh.
is a nice cider. It's a raspberry cider. So yeah, check it out.
Yeah, and I'm the boring one today because all of my adult beverages are at the other house, which is 40 minutes away. And my daughter is 16 and she can drive, but I don't. She just got her license. Very exciting.
Yeah.
However, I don't think it'd be. She's been back up to the other house to like pick stuff up and bring things back, and she's been doing some of the back and forth stuff, which is awesome. But I'm like, hey, why don't you grab all of mommy's booze out of the fridge? I don't think that's gonna go over well.
That would be great if she got pulled over by the police. The police are like, so.
Mhm.
That would not be a good look.
Yeah, pretty sure. So the poor girl had such a hard, she had kind of her driving saga has been fabulous because let's talk about some business rules for a moment, shall we? This is a great example of when the rules don't make sense kind of a deal.
Uh-huh.
So Abby's my daughter, and her birthday was March 24th. So here in Minnesota, you have to go through all this driver's ed stuff and do certain behind the wheel with an actual driving instructor company thing. Mm-hmm. Then after you do 3 behind the wheels, you get this special little card that says you've completed all of your driver's ed. Now you can go take your driving test. She was scheduled to take her final behind the wheel March 23rd. She's born March 24th. Her driving test was scheduled for March 30th. Okay, a week away.
I think I see where this is going. Yes.
Yeah, you can guess. Pandemic. Mm-hmm. So here's the thing, though. The driving company canceled her final behind the wheel because of concern for their instructors. I absolutely respect that. I completely understand.
Respect.
So I'm like, okay. And I'm like, well, it is what it is. What are we going to do? And so we did the right thing. And we went she had her appointment for her driving test on the 30th. Now, what you have to understand is in Minnesota, we scheduled that appointment in December in order to get it as close to her birthday as we could, because they have this ridiculous, I don't know if it's a backlog or what their deal is, but we'll just say they have a process problem with their scheduling, and I'd be happy to help them out. But
send the kid in. Send the kid in.
Dude, let's send in a Canadian at this point.
Honestly, because we look at things and say
the whole state. I mean, there are people who are driving 4 hours north to take the test because they can actually get an appointment and actually go. And of course now, and that was before pandemic stuff, and people would show up at 6 a.m. hoping they could get in to take their test and just sit there all day long for days in a row if they didn't have an appointment. Anyway, so then the governor closes all of the state buildings, and that would have canceled her March 30th appointment anyway. All right, you with me so far? We canceled it because we had to. They start reopening stuff, and I'm like, all right, I'm going to go in here and get it rescheduled. And they're like, if your appointment was canceled due to COVID, call us and we will schedule you. And I'm like, sweet. The response was, oh, you canceled your appointment. And I said, yes, because of COVID. Mm-hmm. Well, no, if you would have so essentially I went around and around with this woman for like 5 minutes because of course I was trying to say, no, you keep telling me that you will help me if the appointment was canceled due to COVID-19 closure. It was canceled due to COVID-19 closure. Mm-hmm. They didn't cancel it. I canceled it.
Right. It's the semantics of it, right? You canceled it because of the pandemic. Mm-hmm. But what they really meant was if we had to cancel your appointment as a result, we'll help a brother out. If you canceled it, sucks to be you.
Exactly. So then they didn't even have the online scheduling thing open for another like 2 weeks. So they were giving themselves some time to get people in, and it makes perfect sense. And then they're like, it opens on a certain day. I had alarms set. I'm like, I go in there. Her driving test was scheduled for like October 15th. And she's like, seriously? And I was like, I'm sorry. It's the best I could do. And so one day I was like, I'm going to just check and see when I can get, because the driving company, the driver's ed company, once you had your other appointment, then they would prioritize. So her being in October, they weren't prioritizing her last class because they're like, oh, we've got all of these other people who have like,
right.
It's this cycle of, well, because you don't have this, you can't have that. And if we can, oh my gosh. So I finally had her behind the wheel thing scheduled. I happened to check one day. They had the very next day driver's test ready. So she got it on, so she passed her test first try, which was awesome. I'm very proud of her. That was on the 22nd. The next day she stayed here at our new house. We were still at our old place. And she texted me. She's like, I was like, hey, how you doing? She's like, everything's great. I said, what you doing? She said, well, she and her friend were here. We're going to go to Starbucks and then we're going to finish painting my bedroom. And I was like, that's great. I get this frantic call while I'm teaching a class. Mom, your car broke down in the Starbucks drive-thru. The day after she got her driver's license. She said, so props to the Starbucks in Eagan, Minnesota for that. To hear her and her friend tell it, she's like, the manager comes out with his posse, and I swear they were walking in slow motion. They pushed her car, my car, into a parking spot out of the drive-thru, comped their drinks, and let them sit in the parking lot until a tow could show up. I got a new alternator though.
Wow.
And did you blame her for breaking your car? Because clearly,
absolutely.
Yeah, because clearly you need to take advantage of that situation.
That seems unlikely. You can't drive badly and break an alternator.
I know, but
I know, but she doesn't know. Her daughter doesn't know.
Okay. On her watch, that's all that matters.
You broke my car.
Yeah. Well, and so I'm teaching class. My husband, I was like, I'm sorry, honey, you got to call your dad. And I'm like, click. Mm-hmm. And I paused I muted my line, and I've shouted up the stairs, Nathan, you have to answer the phone when Abby calls. And he's like, what? And then I hear his phone ring, and I'm like, just answer the phone. And so we're 40 minutes away he's coordinating a tow truck. He's trying to figure out where to tow it because we don't even know where to go. And the guy's like, he was talking to the tow truck and the service guy and whatnot. And they're like, okay, so your teenage daughter's here. Good to know. And he's like, yeah, she got her license yesterday, but she's going to learn this stuff sooner or later. It might as well be today. We're so mean.
I think that's what you call being thrown in at the deep end,
right?
But in seriousness, right? I mean, if she can handle that situation on the day after she's actually, because a breakdown when you're an experienced driver is stressful enough, right? So actually, if she can handle it the second day of her driving career, I mean, that's great, right?
Yeah. Confident. Exactly. I'm really glad at least there was somebody else with her.
Yeah.
Because if she would have been, she would have done the exact same thing. She would have called and we would have talked her through it. We would have figured it out. But at least she wasn't sitting in a parking lot by herself. I mean, it's a good part of town. I mean, it's between a Starbucks and a grocery store. She had.
Oh, she could have holed up there for a week.
Oh, exactly. She went
in a grocery store.
Come on, she was fine.
Dude, I don't need anything else. Right. Actually, just give me the Starbucks. They have food.
Exactly.
I'll be fine.
The scariest breakdown I've ever had was on a not like a highway, not a motorway, but what we call a dual carriageway here in the UK, which is like a fairly major road, 2 carriages, 70 mile an hour limit. Okay, so it's a pretty fast road, and it was flowing pretty freely, and the steering started to feel a little bit weird, and then I just had a tire blowout, which was absolutely terrifying. It was just like the tire disintegrated. I must have hit a pothole earlier or something. Tire disintegrated, And so whereas on like UK motorways you have I don't know what it's called in the US or Canada, we call it like the hard shoulder. So there's a thing you can pull over into.
Yep.
This is where I was like, oh, dual carriageways don't really have those. They just have a ditch where you can ditch your car. But luckily, because they tend to be through, or this is through an area of a bit of countryside, there was I don't know what it was. I could see in the distance some kind of road clearing, and there was like a gate, and so I just drifted the car in slowly and pulled in, and my thoughts were, as I was drifting in, it was like, okay, please let there be mobile phone, please let there be cell phone coverage, because like the chances of me changing this, it was dark, it was raining.
Of course it was, yeah.
The chances of me changing this tire and surviving with cars going 70 is not great. So I needed to call the AA. And then once I got there, and I'm like, okay, great, there's cell phone coverage. My next thought was, how can I get a blog post out of this experience? Because basically everything in my life now is content. Everything. Oh. And I need to.
Isn't that like I am exhausted by that prospect. Because I try to do the same thing, and I just like,
me too. Write about my gosh!
And then I never do. It's exhausting.
I was just looking at my photos from when I was in London last year in September. I was at a conference with Adrian, and I was.
I was at a conference with Adrian. Oh, we're excluding you, Vince.
A dubious
Vince was there the year before, and
the two of us got together without you, and
Vince was there the year before without me. So hey, there we go.
I was.
We took the underground most places, my husband and I, and because we didn't stay anywhere near where the conference was being held, and I was like, this sign reminds me, and we're having this, of course, my husband and I, we're on the London Underground having a conversation about IT and projects at SDLC. And I have all these pictures and I have the outline for what I was going to do, but I never did it. So I should do that. Note to self.
Because that's what you talk about on the tube, right?
Well,
software development.
You're not allowed to speak. There's an
exactly. You're right.
I mean,
really?
In the south of the UK, there's an unwritten rule of don't speak on any public transport anywhere. Mm-hmm. Particularly on rush hour. No, in fact, try not to make eye contact. Try not to acknowledge another human being ever.
It's kind of I need some context. Why? I mean, I'm not a big talker on the train either. But like if I'm there with a friend or like I don't mind having a conversation.
So if you're there with someone you know,
okay.
Then as long as you're quiet, it's probably okay. You'll get some passive aggressive looks if you're, if you're above. You can probably do up to like moderate conversation whisper, without getting looks of disapproval. But it's different. It's different in different parts of the UK. There are different rules. So.
All right. I did not. And Jen, I know you.
Rule.
No, I know. It's one of those unwritten, right?
But I also realize I am very aware of being the obnoxious American no matter where I go, simply because I am American. And so as soon as somebody identifies me as American, there's plenty of, you're American. And so I try, and maybe it's just I have a complex about it, but I just try, I'm like, I'm just going to be quiet. And I'm naturally loud, you guys. I mean, even in my own house, in my own kitchen, I will be having a conversation at what I feel like is a normal volume. And one of my kids or my husband will say, did you realize you're shouting? And I'm like, I am talking at a normal voice.
Why are you yelling at us?
Why are you so loud, Mom? And I'm like, because this is my natural voice. Like, I know Mindy and Jared are out there. You guys have heard me too. I mean, I'm just naturally loud.
Yeah. So I've never admitted this before, but I'm going to let you guys in on a little secret. You and the people that are here with us live. Whenever I'm in Europe or somewhere else, and I need to do something that I think is weird, like ask for directions.
You pretend to be American.
I pretend to be American.
Oh my god!
I put on an American accent, and I pick one: Texan, mostly New York. I do a lot of New York accent, a little bit of Boston if I can get away with it.
I want to hear Boston. Say coffee in a Boston accent. I want to hear it.
Coffee.
That's pretty
Coffee.
cool.
I'm gonna drink some coffee here.
That's
So,
actually that
right?
would connect me as a
Right.
British person.
And I don't need to, like, I just, I do that because I don't want anyone speaking ill of Canada. So,
And America's
I
bad
take
enough as it
advantage.
is, so.
And listen, you guys are right now. I mean, just generally not. There's a lot going on. So I can get away with it.
Is that what you're saying? Is that what you're saying, Vince?
What did I say? What?
Are we the laughing stock of the entire world right now? But
I mean, those are your words. Those are not mine.
Sorry.
I think there's some stuff going on, and I'd rather not talk about that because as you and I chatted earlier, Jen, I'd like to continue to travel.
He's waiting to be banned from all travel because of what he says on
his YouTube show that has 7
and
people.
Other a Zoom meeting, online meeting things. We had a team meeting earlier.
But these are the little, and to me it's just entertaining. I do it mostly for Canada, but also just it's a way of having fun. And nobody knows who I am when I'm far away, so I can be somebody brand new. I can live vicariously. La 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 la.
Oh,
so, but
I'm so worried.
Yeah. Now,
what?
What? Because I did the family ties thing? Is that?
No.
Oh, okay.
Just.
All right.
I don't even know where to go with that, Vince. I just can't even decide.
Jen, listen. Adrian can get freaked out about this. You've been on this show. You know what this is. So how are you guys? It's now been sort of 4 months, 5 months that in the time after COVID. How are you guys adjusting to things? And we all do a lot of speaking. How has that part of your life and your professional career been impacted, and how are you adjusting? Jen. We'll go Adrian first.
Oh, sorry.
Go Adrian. Go Adrian. Yeah.
We'll go alphabetical.
Because I thought you were going to kind of say it's like there's a time, it's like we used to do stuff BC before COVID, where we used to meet people and yeah. I mean, I think
go to conferences and stuff, and
things have changed, right? But I mean. I think for me, I took the view quite early on that this is just going to rumble on and rumble on and rumble on, and I was quite pessimistic, and I still am quite I mean, I call myself a realist. Other people probably call me a pessimist, but if you think about the possible scenarios that could happen, I think one that anyone running a business ought to be considering is that the 20s is remembered as the decade of pandemics, plural. And whilst we would all hope that isn't isn't the case, then anyone running a business really ought to be preparing for that, because we may well be together in a physical conference in a year or whenever. Right. But then this whole thing might happen again. So I think businesses, my own included, need to be able to develop capabilities to switch from the real world to a very, very high fidelity virtual back to real world when the environment needs it. Yeah. And I think for me it's been a period of innovation. But I look at other organizations that I work with, and some are really, really on point. They're really considering the future. Others are just basically saying, well, we're gonna tread water and hope it goes away, or hope normality resumes. And I look at that and think, well,
hope is not a plan.
Even if it does like resolve itself, it's going to be different. Like, we're not going back to that time BC, right?
Yeah, no, and consumer confidence has changed, and it's like you think about, and I was thinking about 3 weeks after, I was noticing that my habits started to, like, you form new habits.
Mm-hmm.
And after a period of time, it's like, well, actually, after this many months, it's going to take a significant effort to change back. No one's going back to the office 5 days a week unless they really, really have to. I mean, who's going to do that, right? Unless
or want to.
Yeah,
I know a lot of people that are like, I can't wait to get back to the office. And these are like the extroverts that just crave.
Your extroverted friends are not okay. As the not okay.
They're not my friends. I just know who they are.
But like 5 days, would you really go back 5 days a week, Jen?
I don't want to go back at all.
No, that's the thing. Where I've kind of been it's kind of interesting because the major portion of my business is teaching virtual classes, and it has been for like 4 years. So we've been doing virtual classes for a really long time, and I've been the primary virtual instructor. So the change for me has been
minimal.
It's minimal. But the other client work, that's what's changed. The client work, the conference work, the workshop work, and that stuff where it was mainly travel related. And I have one group that I teach where I teach at a local university here. I do a business analysis certificate program with them as well. Mm-hmm. They closed down and we had to shift to virtual. And that for them was very, I'll say borderline traumatic, but trying to figure out what to do and pivot very quickly. They weren't prepared for that. And they're like, okay, so what do you think? Do you think you might be able to teach this virtually? And I'm like, I do it all the time. I'm like, this is no big deal. But where we have other clients that they want us to come in and teach a private course for them, that we're doing some of those virtually, but to us, it's still kind of the same. So it's lucky on one hand, but the hard part has been with things like conferences.
Yeah.
It's not that it's, is it fun? Yes. Is it glamorous? No. I mean, you guys know travel is not, it's tough. It's hard on us. Yeah. I love going to conferences, and the people I get to see, I get to reconnect with people. It's kind of like going to summer camp every so often, because it's like, I haven't seen Vince in person in ages,
yeah.
or whatever. And, there's an energy to that. And I'm missing that. I'm missing some of that is the connection with people I don't get to see face to face, but also business stuff and generating business. That has been very, very different. And I'm just hoping that part of what I've been following on Twitter, not just the analysis on Twitter, I do a lot of stuff with some other education areas. So all of a sudden I'm with a lot of academia on Twitter, and they're talking about academic conferences and like being a thing of the past, like they're done now. They will never happen again, is what many of these people are talking about. And I hope that's not what happens for us from a professional development and that sort of thing. That's what I'm kind of like, I hope that's not the case, because that will suck.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of interesting because I saw someone post on Twitter, and I forget who it was, but it was echoing a sentiment I've been thinking for a while, much more articulately than I had thought it, which was essentially a lot of conferences that are going virtual now are saying, how can I convert my real world conference to a virtual conference? Where what they should really be doing is saying, how can I make a really awesome virtual conference? Mm-hmm. Actually, why do we have to take the paradigm of the real world and put it into the virtual world? Why don't we go back to basics and say, what do people really want? What do they really value? And how can we design an experience which delivers all of that in a new and innovative way? And I think that element of it really excites me. But the thing which I agree with Jen, there's, the camaraderie, the meeting people, the beers after.
Exactly what Mindy's comment just popped up. Absolutely.
Exactly what Mindy's saying here, right? Like that's the thing that I don't care. I don't actually go to sessions when I go to our conferences. Like I don't.
So Adrian's very good at going to sessions. It kind of depends. I actually went to a conference in Winnipeg last October, And I was like, I'm going to Sessions. I've never been to this conference, and the content was so totally different from anything I had been to in a while.
Mhm.
I had so much fun at that conference. And I was like, oh my God. And one of the guys who
In
had
Winnipeg?
in Winnipeg, yeah.
All right.
It was really funny because the group, we had a speakers dinner beforehand, and a couple of the speakers, they're like, okay, I can tell you're a little extroverted. We need to have a little talk. I was like, okay. Because I mean, I'm the type of presenter that I ask a question and I need a response, or you don't get the next bit of content. If I have to pull information out of you, I mean, like, this is the audience participation moment of the presentation.
Mm-hmm.
Come on. And they're like, yeah, that's not going to work with this group. It was a huge chunk of developers that were there. It was which was really fascinating. It was an agile, it was a delivery conference leaning heavily agile, but there were analysts there. There were QA folks and a lot of UX people. And because of that, I went to sessions that I normally wouldn't have access to, because it wasn't just a BA conference, or a BA PM conference. So the content was different. And some of it, I was like, this doesn't look very interesting to me at all. But like one of the speakers came to my session. So I felt like, all right, I'm going to be the good little girl and I'm going to go to hers. And I was like, this is oh so fascinating, because what she was talking about was like, oh, this is what I could draw lines to all the analysis stuff that we do. But the way she talked about it was with different words. But she's a UX person. She actually says she's a UX researcher. Talking about UX research, and it did not sound very exciting to me at all. And then I was like, she's talking about everything that I do when we do observation, when we do, but it's from a user experience perspective, which is what we should be doing anyway. So fascinating stuff.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, and to Adrian's point a second ago about this whole, why are we trying to reinvent, or why are we trying to just transition? And the thing that, as you were talking, I kind of popped into my head was, as the overall talking about like switching from gasoline powered vehicles and cars to electric cars. That's one of the reasons I've been so fascinated, and my husband and I both have been so fascinated watching Tesla, because if you look at like all of these, like Chevy and Ford, all of these major auto manufacturers, they've been trying to say, we have this car now. What do we do to make it more, let's make it electric? And they're like trying to just remove a few things. But then, regardless of what you think of Elon Musk, regardless of what you think of Tesla, he's like, all right, I have this space over here and we're going to build an electric car. And what is this going to look like?
Right.
What do we need, and start it in a totally different way. And if you've never had a chance, seriously, go find a Tesla dealership, go look at one, go drive a Tesla, because they're super fun. They're ridiculously fun to drive.
It's an iPad on wheels.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I highly recommend at least.
We have talked a lot about cars.
Sorry. It's my
car episode.
Child and her. Oh,
I haven't owned a car for a year now.
I was going to say you ditched them all together, right?
Yeah.
What have you done different? What's been different about that year?
Fewer maintenance bills. So I live in a city. So Portsmouth, down on the south coast of the UK, depending on whose statistics you believe, is either the second, or sometimes it's classed as the first most densely populated city outside London, if you take people per square kilometre or square mile. And the roads are just congested and horrible. And I live about a 7-minute walk away from a train station. And there's a car club where you can basically just pay by the hour. I don't know if you have like Zipcar. This is enterprise car club type of thing. And there are usually 2 cars parked about a 15-minute walk away from my house. But like, it was getting to the ridiculous situation where I was driving my car about once every 3 weeks. And I was thinking, this is ridiculous. I mean, and just parking's horrendous in the city because everything's on street parking So I don't miss it at all. I can drive. I mean, I've never really enjoyed driving anyway. And so and my car was getting to the. I don't know if you've ever owned a car where it gets to the comedy stage of its life cycle, where everything slowly deteriorates to the point where, you know, like the windows will sort of open sometimes, and you know, and you've got all of these minor faults with it. It kind of got to that stage. Then there was a catastrophic fault, and I was just like, oh, scrap it. So yeah.
My first car was that. Except I ditched it before the catastrophic fault. I had a 2000 and it was the first car I bought new.
Okay.
When I first started working, a 2003 Chrysler PT Cruiser.
Wow. Nice.
Black with the chrome.
Very nice.
It was very me at the time.
I was gonna say it feels a little like Vince the Mob guy in the PT Cruiser.
Yeah, it was very me at the time.
Was body styling of a PT Cruiser.
I mean, that car moved us from my old house to this house. Like it was our moving. Other than we hired a moving van to do like beds and cabinets and like big things, but boxes. It was, and I was driving like you, Jen. I'm about 50, 60 minutes away from one house to the other. And I just, for 3 weeks that we had the crossover, I was just driving back and forth.
That's
just back and forth. It's exhausting.
To that old house, to the now old house. This is the third house that we've owned as a married couple. And from our first house to our second house, we moved in the minivan, except for we finally rented a U-Haul because the TV was the only thing that would fit, and it would not fit in the minivan. And so we had the TV and then any other random stuff. My husband would go to work and then he would drive to the old house, pack up a bunch more stuff, and then bring it up. And then we'd unpack all of that stuff and put it where it needed to go. But we did one weekend was we got up on a Saturday morning and he said, all right, what's it going to take to get us to move to the new house? And I said, we have to be able to sleep there. We have to be able to eat there. If we have to sleep there, we have to be able to get dressed there. So
sure.
Some clothes, beds, food.
That's like minimum viable household.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey.
Absolutely what it was.
MVH.
Yeah. It was absolutely minimum viable because, I mean, even coming down here, I've been trying to kind of soften the blow of moving. Like my daughter is going to be a junior in high school. So she's 2 years into her 4-year high school career here. She has identity up there, and my sons, one's starting high school, one's starting middle school. So those two were going to be in new schools anyway. The other one, my middle boy, he's switching schools and he's not all that attached to that old school, but of course friends and stuff like that. So I've been trying to kind of be very accommodating to what would you like your room to look like? You know, let's paint your bedroom. Oh, you do need a new bed? Well, great. Well, let's get you a new bed. Let's get you a new bedspread. You know, trying to paint and all of that stuff. So we've been trying to come down here to paint before moving. We were trying to get a bunch of stuff done, which no, we're not done, but we're like, all right. And my husband's like, all right. So he had internet shut off last Friday at the old place. And I was like, that means we're moving on Saturday, come hell or high water. You know, I'm like, you're taking away my internet.
No internet? No.
And we both have work.
Right.
You know, so he's in a different office. I did say, you do know you increased your commute by a lot because we now have our house we have an upper level where the bedrooms are. I'm on essentially the main floor, and then we have a basement, and his office is in the basement. So to go from the bedroom, he has to go all the way down to the basement for his office. And I was like, I don't know, it's a little bit longer than you've been commuting for quite a while here.
and trust me, these basement offices, they're not very glamorous.
He's happy with it so far.
Well, good. I hate mine, but whatever.
He can close the doors. He's also much closer to the theater room, though. So there you go.
The theater room.
There's a theater room. I'm so excited.
Oh, wow.
Jen's fancy, Adrian. You didn't know that?
Oh,
she's fancy.
I mean, obviously, we have a gift wrapping room in the house here. So no.
It's I I should. I'm all completely powered, and if I unplug anything, it's literally the internet goes. I'm actually hardwired. Otherwise, I'd say, hey, I'd walk y'all around, but yeah, that's for another day, another beverage kind of conversation, because it's kind of funny because I do have some. What am I going to do with this? There's some very ridiculous things going on in the house, and you know how that is. It's like you're not used to stuff. I have light switch issues right now, like. They don't make sense to me, which I mean, Adrian every once in a while will post on Twitter what was going on in this hotel room? I miss those tweets. That's what I miss about the pandemic is Adrian and the music.
The wall art, the hotel art. I enjoyed the hotel art.
Some of the art in hotels, and it's not just the UK, it's globally, but I do look at it and I think, what possessed the person who bought that? And it's sometimes it's global chains as well. And you're like, so this has been like a buyer. Someone's actually like this hasn't accidentally been put here.
Mm-hmm.
It's been very deliberately chosen. And that for me makes it even more hilarious. It's like, you know, that bad taste has been probably through 3 levels of sign off.
About who approved the purchase of this horrible art?
Yeah, let's go with the crying clown for our new Hilton line of hotels. Yeah,
some of it's terrifying. I mean, like proper. You know, when you wake up in the middle of you folks travel. Regular traveler problems in hotels are if you stay in enough hotels that are similar. You know, when you have brands that kind of have similar layouts, and then you get put in maybe the same room in the same hotel the next week, and it's reversed. So everything's in the exact opposite place. And then you wake up in the middle of the night and you go into what you think is the bathroom, but you're in the hallway, right? You know, and like you've got to be really careful with those kind of things as well. But yeah, like literally, you know, waking up in the middle of the night and just seeing some terrifying picture of some like ghost. I mean, they may as well just haunt the rooms. I mean, that'd be preferable, right? I mean, like, you know, they could sell tours or something then. I mean, but anyway, this isn't about pictures. This isn't about my art baggage.
but it's these are the little things that we are not getting to do now.
It is very true.
But on the flip side, let's keep praising Adrian here. I've enjoyed the scenic views of the sea on your Instagram, because like I don't have that. So, you know, whenever I go last year I was in Hawaii, and I despite being severely jet lagged, on the one day that I had free, I'm like, I'm going to the friggin' ocean. I am going to put my feet in the sand and in the water, and I don't care that I'm tired. And I went and did it, and I went back to my hotel room and slept for another 4 hours. But I don't get that. We're very we have a lake, but we're very landlocked. So I've enjoyed those views, because it's like good times.
No, well,
good times.
I'm glad.
Keep it up, man.
I love it. I love living. You know, I'm about a 20-minute walk or maybe 25-minute walk from the seafront. So yeah, it's great. I go there most days to exercise. So
yeah, because you guys had the limited, like you could only be out for an hour kind of thing for your daily walk.
Yeah. We were allowed out once a day at the worst of lockdown. So
right. And Jen, what's been your lockdown experience? Are you only allowed out once a day? He asks, knowing the answer.
We've been very good, and we've been very careful personally, because
I'll agree.
We just kind of have to, right? I mean,
you're logical, and you are pragmatic.
And I work with somebody who I was going into. I would go to the Uncommon League office, which is somebody else's house, and so in January and February, I literally had an office. Like I have clothes at that office.
Oh wow!
And it's only because we were doing video stuff. So and there's certain tops that go well with a green screen, and certain they don't. Right? I mean,
I'm with you.
I wear, like today, it's hey, I am wearing a beer t-shirt, but that's a whole other story. It's actually from a book, but it's a real brewery in South Dakota. And there's certain, like for me, I have to wear a certain kind of button down to get the mic in the right place. And I have to think about colors and stuff like that. So I had my camera ready stuff and it's there.
Yay, Jared. Poo-poos, buddy. Poo-poos. All right, I'll tell that story in a minute.
So
Because Adrian's looking concerned now.
I'm a little worried. I'm like, I don't know, but we were doing a lot of video work together, and then there were some things that happened that made me not go there, and then the COVID stuff happened, which was like, nope, that's it.
Yeah.
And so I think I'm like dancing around a topic that I think everybody knows about. My business partner, Bob, has been diagnosed with cancer. And so when he got his cancer diagnosis, it was, you know, I was still going over there. But then once we started hearing more about the COVID stuff and different things going on, he's like, it's not worth it. And I was like, you are absolutely right. There's no way to know who has it and who doesn't. So I stopped. I mean, we would work through video like most people, you know, through video conferencing. And one of my sons was born with a heart defect. So he's not considered immunocompromised or anything like that. Because if you had never heard this and had met my kids, and you might go, which one, like, or even if you do meet my children at some point, you know, it's one of the boys, you wouldn't be able to tell which kid is the one that had a heart thing. But if I don't know what would happen if he were to get sick.
And why find out? Like,
that's not worth it. It's not worth it to me. So even before masks were fully required, I did not like the grocery delivery thing. I have had so many issues with grocery delivery, but I was the only one who was leaving the house, and I was going for groceries. And that was like other like takeout, we would do DoorDash and Grubhub and whatnot. But if it was going to the grocery store, I would go to the grocery store. I didn't wear gloves, but I would wear a mask. I had hand sanitizer. I would sanitize the cart, use the cart, only touch the thing that I wanted. You know, I didn't sanitize the packages or anything like that, but I'd come home and I'd sanitize my hands at the car. I'd sanitize my hands when we get home. So I've been really careful about stuff like that. I feel like I'm starting to get a little bit more relaxed, and I'm trying to remind myself that there's nothing that says I should. So I'm trying to kind of keep that in mind and not change those things. And that's what scares me about this whole, you know, like Adrian said, multiple pandemics is quite likely to happen. And if you look at some of those charts where they're showing, you know, it's like there were these little bumps here and it's like, oh my gosh, close schools. And now the numbers of cases is up here. We're like, oh, you know, let's go ahead and open up businesses and send kids back to school.
But it's interesting because I mean I don't know how the narrative is playing out in Canada and the USA. I mean, we see elements of it here in the you know, on the news and I see on Twitter. But like certainly in the UK, the narrative seems to be almost like imagining a binary slider where it's like, well, we can protect people's health or we can protect the economy, and we've got to put the slider somewhere, right? Because actually, if everyone's at home, then that creates an issue for the economy and blah, blah, blah. And I just think that is the epitome of linear, binary, non-innovative thinking, right? It's about saying, well, let's do everything. Let's find a way of going back to the way we used to be without killing, but with killing the, you know, let's just try and kill the minimum amount of people we can so that we can make money the way we've always made money. And I was like, because I often think in pictures, and I was out on my walk this morning, I was thinking, like, if that slider, right, if you've got like health on one end and you've got you know, the economy on the other, well actually, like, if it becomes like, connect it like that, right, find a way of bending it so you can optimize. And this is what I kind of mean about, like, I mean, taking conferences for an example is, well, you know what, actually put a bomb. I shouldn't say the word bomb. I'm probably on all sorts of FBI lists now from saying that word on a.
It's okay. Join me on the no-fly list to the US.
So, but put a bomb under it, you know, and actually start again and say, well, you know, why on earth do we have speakers? Why not have unconferences? Because then you can get elements of networking and stuff thrown in. Do it differently. Have it over a period of time. Have an ongoing conversation. Cultivate a place where real innovation can happen. And I'm not saying real world conferences don't do that. They really, really do. But it's like, take the things that virtual's good at and amplify that. Don't try and take the paradigm of the old world. And I think that's what a lot of businesses are kind of, and I mean, I just take conferences as an example because that's what we were talking about.
And even the regular, we said, who's going to ever go back to the regular office? So my husband is a IT consultant. He's more technical. He's a solution architect. He's been a consultant at a bank downtown Minneapolis for 18 months. Today is his last day as a consultant. Tomorrow he starts there as a full-time employee. So he's converting over. And when he first started as a consultant, it was, well, all the consultants have to go into the office, which is fascinating because they're like, well, you have to be in the office. None of the full-time employees were in the office. They all could work from home. So there were like only 2 or 3. I mean, they did not have people there. So even when he's in the office, he's on conference calls because the only people in the office were consultants. So now that he's being converted, they're like, well, because I'm like, before I was starting to see the writing on the wall, they were going to start shutting stuff down. And I was like, you need to make sure you get the VPN stuff set up because they weren't, like most of us, you get that very quickly when you start work. He didn't have any of that access. So he started talking to his, the manager saying, I'm a little concerned about what's happening. So he got the VPN set up and all of that stuff going on. So it's great. He's been working from home, hasn't had to change his job habits, the way, he just went from working one place to working in another. Great. In his interview process to take essentially his job as a full-time employee for the company, they're like, well, just so you know, they're asking us all to shift to going back into the office, after all of this is all over. And I'm like, why?
It's so short-sighted.
They're literally telling him and everybody else who's been working from home from now, not only this past several months, but even beyond that, no, we're going to shift it so everybody has to come into the office because they have the real estate to force it. And I don't understand. And
but that's a ridiculous argument because the real estate is there whether you have people in it or not. I mean,
exactly.
Right.
It's in fact, you wear it out more by having people in it. Your maintenance costs increase.
Well, and that comes down to I've had this conversation with a couple of folks before as well, which is if we're shifting from people being in an office building to them being at home, now the cost burden of stuff like your internet. What about your desk? Hey, I got a shiny new office chair that's much more comfortable, but hey, I needed it. But what about folks who didn't have really great internet? Like they had okay internet because they could stream, they could watch Netflix and they would be happy, but can their kids be streaming Netflix while they're on a conference call or something like that? Kind of what we're doing. That's a different bandwidth. That's cost. And that cost is being now handed over to a lot of employees. And I don't think that's being subsidized where it probably could be.
Right.
And what's going to happen in the future? To me, I feel like we're opening it's not quite a can of worms, but it's people need to start asking some of those questions because I think it was Spotify, has said, no, it wasn't Spotify. It was somebody else, another like big company that you'd know. They talked about it on Twitter. That's it. We're going to just go all virtual. It's like, okay, how are you going to pay for the office space for all of the people that you just are sending home essentially?
I think it was Twitter, wasn't it?
I don't think it was Twitter directly.
Twitter has said, Google has said that they're doing a lot more. Spotify has done.
It might have been Spotify then.
It might have been Spotify, but
I feel like I blame Spotify for so many things, so I have to
they're fine. I don't know that. I think that the value of real estate is going to drop significantly in commercial centers.
I was going to say, hopefully it's the commercial real estate. Let's not
market.
So,
I think that's my feeling. The people I actually feel bad for are the folks that own the supporting businesses. Like I'm thinking of food court in my building. There's
Yeah.
there's about 12 different restaurants for food. Well, not restaurants, but takeout.
Yeah.
Like they are,
Happier people.
yeah, like they are going to be the ones that really suffer. And but I think just like conferences,
Mm-hmm.
to really tie things together, they're going to have to find a different way to survive, or they don't, and that's horrible, but that's the current economic system that we have, right? Like
Yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah.
survival of the fittest. And so I agree with you with the don't try to take your offline conference, and I've had this now with a lot of my online my courses that I'm putting online, the workshops that I do, I'm putting them online, and it's not about just recreating, it's about
No,
reimagining
it
what
it
it
is.
could be, right?
And I think another thing that I heard something on the radio which really resonated with me, and it was talking in a very different context, but I thought it could equally apply to conferences that are ambitious in that regard. It's like, so I mean, I don't follow soccer, but Vince, I know you do,
I
right?
do.
And you would probably go and watch something in a pub, right, in a bar with other people, right? And okay, maybe you wouldn't, but lots of people.
I got young kids, man. I don't get to go out that often.
Oh, okay.
He doesn't get to do anything right now.
I don't get to do anything. I only get to have fun when I'm out at conferences.
Okay. So this is the perfect solution then, right? Because it's like, imagine like there's these big 20,000 Gartner conferences or whatever are never going to happen again, or aren't going to happen. Well, maybe we're going to go back to a model which is both global and local, where actually
Sure.
you can have your regional hubs that have 100 people in them, connected by high fidelity, video conferencing. You've got social distancing, you've got local sponsors, and you can even do the kind of live aid thing where you've got a speaker in one zone so you've got regional speakers, but then they're live streaming to the other, and that becomes that's a way of perhaps blending and having a hybrid type conference. But I think there are so many interesting models out there for businesses, and I think it's about adapting, isn't it? But I think the thing that's not happening in the UK is it's like there's very little honest narrative. Like all of the government narrative is, well, we're going to get through this, and there'll be. I mean, there was even like there might be a vaccine by Christmas. There's not going to be a vaccine.
There's
and
not.
if there is, are you lining up to use it? An untested
Well, it will be
vaccine?
through clinical trials, but
but they're rushing those. Like,
but
okay.
I mean,
Anyways,
honestly, Adrian. So does this go back to a little bit of because I mean, I've been so fascinated by how England, Great Britain in general, how London handled stuff like the Blitz and all of it. Like, this whole keep calm and carry on thing. I mean, I know but like that to all of those other degrees. Good grief, people in London put their children on trains and sent them away from the city. Like, I am so fascinated by that. And I'm looking at some of this now going, these are the folks that are just like, we're going to shut off our lights and we're going to make sure that nobody could figure out where to bomb us. And dude, we're being asked to just shut off. We're not even being asked to shut off our lights. We're being asked to just stay in our damn houses. Just stay home. Watch TV, keep your lights on. Just stay in one place. Don't go running around, right?
At the beginning of this, and at the end, like last week, I saw two of to me, they felt the most poignant summaries of what's going on. And I'm saying this as an outsider, because the Canadian experience has been different than the American experience. But at the beginning, Patton Oswalt had a tweet where he was like, Anne Frank stayed in an attic for 2 years. We are being asked to stay home with Netflix and food delivery. We can do this. Like, this isn't an issue. And then last week, I saw something from Jason Alexander, which is a name that might not mean anything to you, but he's George Costanza.
Uh-huh.
And George Costanza, or Jason Alexander, he hasn't been George for a while,
Yeah.
was like, when people are refusing to put on masks, it's the equivalent of, and you use the Blitz, it's the equivalent of the Blitz in London, where everyone agreed to turn their lights off, and there's one douche who's like, no, I'm going to keep my lights on. What is wrong with you?
Yeah.
You've got to give up something for the great. There has to be some utilitarianism, some like something bigger than yourself that you give up a little bit.
But I feel like we've
help
a lot of that, right? I mean, the whole, loose lip sync ships kind of,
Snitches
whatever.
get stitches.
But I mean, some of what the media has done, and I'm a huge, I mean, I have a journalism background. I am a huge supporter of media and in people doing the right thing. And stuff would not be reported on in the mass media because it was, well, this is national security and we need to be careful about this because if something, I mean, and then you have, there's all this other stuff going, I don't understand.
So I'm a fan of journalism too, Jen, but there isn't any left anymore, or very little of it.
I'll tell you that a guy I went to college with, and so who I know personally, is now a reporter on CNN. So I know him. I know his ethics. I know his values. Do I trust all of CNN? No. But do I trust Jeff Zeleny? I do. Because
but is Jeff getting clicks?
No, people yell at him a lot. So I think he's doing okay.
Right. It's kind of, when you boil it down, I mean, that's another interesting thing. You take the traditional media and what's a newspaper? A newspaper is a mechanism for getting ads to consumers with the incentive of giving them something to read. Mm-hmm. Right? And if you're watching news on a commercial station, it's a station that is designed to get ads to consumers by giving them something compelling to watch. So it's a race to the bottom because it has to become more sensationalist. Mm-hmm. And what you need to become more sensationalist, you polarize people across as many spectrums as you want, right? And I think that's certainly, I see that in the UK is that, like, there's no, and then you get people who have political capital in actually driving people apart. And I think the reason, I mean, this is just a pure personal observation, but I think, like, because we have people in the UK who are anti-mask, we have people in the UK who are anti-vaccination, which is ludicrous, right? And but it's this sense of it's this sense of division. In the war, when there was the keep calm, carry on, there was a coalition government. It was seen as such so I've actually wondered whether, is what the world needs coalition. Divisive politics is not going to work when you've got a global...
Count us out, the Americans. We're done. So
yeah.
Sorry.
for a little bit at least.
Oh God.
So I you guys both know I have a political background. I would love to take this as a leap off and do another hour, but I don't think that's a good idea for any of our careers. Also, it has been an hour.
It has been. I'm gonna have to hop quick because I've got I'm getting messages from outside my door saying,
"Okay, hold on. Jen, we need to close the show properly."
Okay.
So with that, Jen, any last thoughts and anything you want to tell people, and if they want to know more about you, where should they go?
So in order to sign off, I will say a couple of things. I do know of a fabulous virtual conference coming up or two. Actually, by chance. I'm sorry, Adrian. So go
This is where we exclude Adrian.
Yeah, sorry. So this is go to theuncommonleague.com and you can check out our 3 virtual conferences. They are 3 totally different events, and we are doing our best to innovate and reinvent the conference. And so we have 3 of the September, November, the day after the U.S. election, by the way. And
I'm still wondering about that one.
Yeah, we're super excited about all of them, and we are doing things that will be different, but still learning, but also fun. So if you want to hear more about me, I'm, my bio's on there and stuff like that. Otherwise, my parting shot is wear your mask.
Yes. And Adrian, same question. Anything you want to promote, or if people want to know more about you, where's the best place for them to get you?
Yeah, so you can check out my blog, which is adrianreed.co.uk. My company is Blackmetric. If you look at blackmetric.com, loads of events, virtual courses. If you want courses for your team in any time zone, very happy to help with that. And you can look at that kind of stuff. I'm on Twitter, LinkedIn, reach out. Always happy to have a conversation. And I guess my parting thought, I think, would be, like, whatever business we're in, we should be looking to innovate for sure. We should also be empathetic of others in what's a very difficult situation for many. And we should look after each other. And wearing a mask is absolutely part of that. So I agree with Jen.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah. Awesome. All right, guys, I appreciate you. I appreciate you joining early, Jen, staying up late, Adrian. This will wrap episode 13 of Analysts After Work, and we'll catch you in the next one. So you guys don't have to run. I'm just going to end the broadcast, but
no problem.
See you all. Thanks everyone for joining. Mindy, Dan, Jared, Katie. See you next time.